What's up, wrestling fans, and more specifically, CWF Mid-Atlantic fans? If you're not a fan of CWF Mid-Atlantic and you're watching this video, what are you waiting for? Head over to CWF Worldwide and catch up on all their TV and all their product. I've been pondering doing this video for a while, and it's very hard. Basically, what this video is, it's going to be 5 wrestlers that I would like to see in CWF Mid-Atlantic in 2018. And why we won't see them. First off, there is you got to think of this list as a promoter. I will say that, and not a fan. As a fan, I would love to see all these guys. As a promoter, I'd love to see all these guys. But you gotta think of money. You got to think of availability. You got to think of drawing power. And when I say drawing power, there's no doubt that all these people on this list, all 5 of these people on this list, could draw. The problem is, could they draw at CWF Mid-Atlantic? And I'll explain that by saying this. To us here on the internet, yes, we would love to see these guys on an episode of Worldwide. Or yes, we would love to see them in that building, in that magical sportatorium, in that magical place. The trouble is, would the locals there in Gibsonville, North Carolina, know who these people are or care? Some of them, yes. A lot of them, I can tell you right now, 3 out of the 5, probably not. Do they have enough drawing power? I'll be honest with you. Two of these people on this list are women. I was at Queens of Combat last weekend, I want to say it was, and it was last weekend. And I gotta say that there was not a lot of, they don't do a lot of promoting as far as, hey, come see Queens of Combat in this very same building next weekend. CWF doesn't do that. Why? Because in that part of the area, people don't have the money to go to wrestling every single week. It's just the way it is. So they promote their shows and their return to the sportatorium, and rightfully so. However, they don't expect fans, nor should they expect fans, to go to a CWF show, then go to Queens of Combat the following weekend, then maybe go to an RGL show the following weekend, because it's happened sometimes before, and then go to another CWF show the following weekend. It's just not going to happen. So they don't promote, they'll promote it on the website, hey, Queens of Combat's coming, but Queens of Combat, people like Queens of Combat and Shakara, which oddly enough, I looked on Shakara's website, they're not running the sportatorium. They're staying up in Philly, ironically, in 2018, the way it looks. So locally, they don't promote, outside talent like that. I mean, so when I say drawing or outside promotions, so when I say drawing power, if a regular CWF fan is not going to the shows where like these people are on, like a Queens of Combat or Chikara or anything like that, then they're not going to care enough to see them in CWF. It's just the way it is. If they do bring them in, then it's, oh, hey, okay, yeah, cool, I'd love to see you again. Which brings me to my second point of money. We would love to see Alley Cat again in CWF. I love the fact that Alley Cat was on an RGL show. The problem is that Alley Cat came in back in September or October because she was already coming through North Carolina on a tour that she was doing that weekend. Again, a lot of these people don't live in the Mid-Atlantic area. They stay up in the Northeast or on the West Coast or somewhere, or, Middle America. And they're not cheap to bring in. A lot of these talents aren't cheap. Now, a couple of them have worked, elsewhere before, like a Queens of Combat or a Nova Pro. But the problem is CWF Mid-Atlantic is not going to spend the money to bring these guys in. It's just the way it is. Again, can we draw with these people? Is it worth bringing them in? We'll bring, like the Hardy Boys. It was worth bringing the Hardy Boys in on that one occasion because they had a packed house. Is it going to be like that if some of these guys and gals on this list come in? Probably not. Again, that local crowd doesn't know who they are, and with the exception of maybe 2 of the people on this list, no offense to any of the people on this list, but that Mid-Atlantic crowd, that local yokel crowd, they just don't care. And that local yokel crowd is what CWF cares about first and foremost, because that's where the money is coming in. They could care less how many views at the end of the day. I mean, I'm not going to say they care less, because they do care how many views they get, but YouTube is not their bread and butter. The local talent or the local crowd is their bread and butter. It's how they make their money. So they're going to service those guys. They're going to service people like me that go to the shows. They're going to value my opinion as a worldwide viewer, and even as an after show host, I think they value my opinion. But when it comes to what the local crowd wants, it doesn't make a hill of beans. Number 3, of course, some of these people are under contract to different organizations. Some of them, Lucha Underground, whatever the case may be. This is just my quote-unquote fantasy list. I had a hard time distilling this list, and the list for me, for independent workers that I want to see are, is probably, 10 to 25 long. So this is like not a top 5. This is just the first 5 that I could think of right off the top of my head as I was doing this video, and I didn't want to put like 3 days worth of research into it. So let's get into this list here, and again, you're going to hear me repeat myself as the reasons why we wouldn't see them, but that's okay. Number 1 on my list here is Sami Callihan. I think Sami Callihan has been tearing up the indies. He's under contract. I think he's still performing down in Impact, but again, money. Is it worth it to bring a Sami Callihan in? Would people know who Sami Callihan was just based off his WWE run as Solomon Crow? Maybe if you put formerly, and again, they don't paper the crowd, so it's not like or the town, so it's not like you're going to see pictures or posters all over Gibsonville of "Come see the wrestler Sami Callihan, formerly known as Solomon Crow." You're not going to see that in Gibsonville. They don't really promote locally. They put a sign on the door of the sportatorium, and that's it. They've built themselves up enough fans now to where they don't really, locally, that they really don't need to do that. And again, this is not a bash of the local fans. I like going and seeing the local fan opinion versus the worldwide audience opinion. The thing is, you very rarely see, I'll be honest with you. I'm chatting with people in line waiting to get in on the building, and 90% of them don't even know what a Twitter is, nor do they have one. They don't even know that the YouTube thing exists, even though it's all over their faces when they go into the building. They tell them, "Hey, we're live the tape for YouTube," and blah, 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 but they don't care. They're not going to sit there and watch it because they've seen it already in their minds. But a Sami Callihan, who he would face. Who should Sami Callihan face? So that's a difficult for me. I would love to see, and this is going to shock a lot of people, I would love to see him versus an Eric Andrews. And I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, that's just such a mixed match on paper. But I think it could be good. Another person that comes to my mind for a Sami Callihan is a Michael McAllister. If they brung him in, for a singles match, Michael McAllister could probably work well with Sami Callihan. So that's Sami Callihan on my list here. Again, this is in no particular order. It's just the first 5 that popped into my head today. The second person on my list is probably another one of those that people are going to go, "Oh no." That's Brian Cage, man. I love me some Brian Cage, and I think he would mesh well. I think he would be good as like a one-time attraction in CWF, but again, it's just not going to happen. As far as who he would face, as much as I would love to see him in that building and working in that building, I don't know who you put him with out there. I really don't, because he's just going to look like, and again, this is no offense to the talent at all. Please don't take offense to this. I love each and every wrestler, unless they bring in another outside name. I just don't see it happening. I mean, he could work Trevor Lee. Obviously, anybody on this list could probably, with the exception of the 2 ladies that are on this list, could work Trevor Lee. But honestly, I don't know who you would put him against except for a Trevor Lee. Sami could work all over the place, but Brian, I just don't. Cage, I don't see him working anybody in that promotion but a Trevor Lee. Maybe a Rick Converse could work him. Hell, if they wanted to even put him against, golly, I know I'm going to get flack for this one and go, oh no, but C.W. Anderson would be, C.W. Anderson versus Brian Cage could work. The problem with Brian Cage is he's just so much of a damn beast that he just looks like he could run over everybody. It's just the way it is. Again, not a knock on the current CWF talent, but it's another one of those reasons why we probably won't see him in CWF in 2018. The next person on my list is one that people have been begging for since probably 2016, or early 2017 at least, and that's Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle, him and Trevor, for me, is a dream match in that Sportatorium. Another person that I would love to see him with is Kane Justice. Matt Riddle versus Kane Justice. Oh, man, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Oh, man. But, again, price, availability, having to fly these guys in, put them up in a hotel, the whole 9 yards. Matt Riddle has reached that point on the indies where he can pretty much name his price. He's just one of those indie darlings right now. You can't go to a damn mainstream indie show. I mean, he just worked House of Hardcore last night as I'm recording this. So I would love to see Matt Riddle versus Trevor, Matt Riddle versus Kane. Hell, I would love to see, Matt Riddle versus anybody in CWF right now. Another thing that comes to mind here just popped into my head when I'm thinking of these 5 people, or at least the 3 that we've talked about so far, is do you bring them in, and does it do any good to bring them in as far as elevating the core CWF talent? Matt Riddle, I think, unless he's going to job to somebody, do you pay that somebody, to elevate that talent? And does it elevate the talent that much as far as the local community goes? My answer to that is no. Again, I bet you maybe 1 out of every 10 people sitting in a packed Sportatorium even knows who Matt Riddle is. The VIP people here that that sit on the same row, they know who he is because they follow the wrestling internet. They follow, wrestling Twitter and they Meltzer and all them or whatever have you. So they know who Matt Riddle is. But do the Gibsonville people know who Matt Riddle is? I'm going to guess no. They probably don't know who Brian Cage is. Again, they only know who Sami Callihan is because they're going to look at him and go, oh, Solomon Crow. And that's if they watch NXT. So, yeah, Matt Riddle, dream match, him and Trevor. I think they faced off before. I want to say in like PWG or Chicago, wherever. But I don't think they've never faced in the Sportatorium before. So, and him and Kane, I think, would tear the freaking house down. The last 2 on this list are women's wrestlers. Now, let me say something about this before we go to the 2 women that made my list. Is that women's wrestling? The Gibsonville people, the locals who go to the shows, along with the internet guys like me that go to the shows, along with the internet people like who watch worldwide every week, have been begging for some sort of women's division in CWF. We loved seeing the women in CWF. Sis is no longer with CWF, and she was the only regular woman that they had. So it's kind of left a void there. Alley Cat popped in for a little bit for 1 match last year. Let me see here. Who else popped in there? I'm trying to think. The name escapes me. Oh, man, I'm gonna catch flack for this. But there was a couple other women. Aspen Rose. Appeared there a couple of times. Let me see here. Now I'm gonna have to look it up here because I had the name in my head. Let me see here. Sorry guys, the name I get like this. I'm not gonna stop recording because of this here. Priscilla Kelly. She's another one right after she became the one of the champions there in Shine when she won her secondary belt there in was it Shine or Shimmer? I think it was Shine. She got brung in for a couple shows, and I couldn't have been happier to see women on the show. In fact, she beat Sis, which was a shock to some people at the time. So, I would love to see more women in CWF. Here's the thing, and this got asked by Papa Hales at FanCon back in October of why we don't see more. And the answer then, and it's the answer now here, 4 months later, 4 or 5 months later, is that it's just availability and cost. There's not a lot of, I will say there are women's wrestlers in the Mid-Atlantic area, but the way it was put at FanCon at the time was the people around this area in the Mid-Atlantic that could come in aren't good enough. And the people who are good enough either A, are already booked, or B, they can't, it's cost effective not to bring them in. Like I said, Alley Cat came down, was running through the Mid-Atlantic area on a loop. She worked Nova one on a Friday. She came down for a seminar, for the RGL seminar, and she was the standout of the seminar, they said. So they put her on the main event of the RGL show, and she did a fantastic job. So let's get into the top two, the top two women that I think should be on this list. And Jordynne Grace is the first one that came to my mind as far as feasible. She works Nova a lot, so maybe if she's working Nova on a Friday, they could come, book her on a Saturday. But again, who's she going to work with? She can work with men, I can't, her versus I'm going to go out and say it right now. Jordynne Grace versus a Kane Justice is freaking, that would be freaking awesome, man. I'm sorry. I just think it would be freaking, they would tear the house down. Her versus, an Ethan Alexander Sharp. I know Ethan, is trying to get away from that, and it almost killed his gimmick, he said, kind of. But I think that would be good as well. Her, her versus anybody on that roster would be good. If they wanted to bring back Sis, that would be good as well. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But again, this is all fantasy, thinking out of my head, But I would love to see Thick Mama Pump in the Sportatorium. I mean, her work is phenomenal. She's got a great look. She's got a great presence. It's just, I'm sorry. I want to see, I've been championing for her to come to CWF Mid-Atlantic ever since I discovered her last year. So if you're listening, CWF Brass, or anybody in CWF, book Jordynne Grace, please. The next one on my list, I got to admit, is a guilty pleasure of mine. Because if I had to have a women's wrestling crush, it's this woman right here, and that's Lufisto. I want to see Lufisto. Hell, book, I know Lufisto and Jordynne Grace, they're a tag team on the indies, but hell, book Lufisto versus Jordynne Grace, for crying out loud. I would just love to see Lufisto in a match, her versus Eric Andrews, I think would be freaking killer, and I know they don't like to book women versus men, and you hear that nowadays and go, women versus men. Who the hell do you think they train with? Come on. Her and Eric Andrews, or her versus, again, it's her versus anybody, and that would be great. I just want to see Lufisto in the Sportatorium. I just want to see her working on a CWF card. But again, it's logistics, it's pay, it's will this bring me a live crowd? Are the live crowd, is the live Gibsonville regular crowd gonna know who Lufisto is? Will this name, or will any of these names, draw me anything outside that's going to make my money back on bringing them in? You have to, as a business owner, you have to think, okay, if I'm going to bring Lufisto in, I'm going to have to pay her. I'm going to have to fly her in. I'm going to have to or pay her for her travel. I'm going to have to put her up in a hotel room probably for the night that night, unless she wants to drive out to her next gig the next day, and that's the case, I think it's on them. But then you got to look at, okay, here's what we typically make off of a CWF show. Will this draw me any more? Will it cover the cost? Can I at least break even when it comes to bringing any of those 5 names in? I got to say, I don't think so. Is it going to attract me more worldwide views on YouTube? Yes. But YouTube is not making them a whole lot of money. I mean, I got to think, wrestling on YouTube is dead. And I'm going to do a video in a couple of days talking about the YouTube situation and, as far as pro wrestling goes, and talking about ways I think that CWF could benefit themselves by branching out a little bit, and it's not what you think. But I'm sorry, I'm biased. I love me some Lufisto. I want to see her live so bad in that sportatorium, in that building. I know she's probably worked there for Queens of Combat, but I want to see her in CWF. If they were going to make a women's division around in CWF, I'm not saying she's the girl that you would, build it around, because, again, travel expenses, money, whatever. I think you have to find somebody local that's willing to commit and come in every show to do that. But I definitely think she's one of the people that you could bring in, along with a Jordan Grace. Maybe, Lufisto versus whoever your women's champion is at Battlecade one year, something. But again, this is my list. This is my opinion. It's not necessarily fact. I'm very much biased here because I love Lufisto. I mean, she's probably my favorite women's wrestler out there ever today. It's her, and then second is Su Yung. I would love to see Su Yung too. I think she's an honorable mention. But again, I think that she. I don't think CWF needs a somebody. I mean, well, I could take that back and say maybe CWF doesn't need Lufisto either. CWF probably doesn't need any of the people on this list coming off of the year that they've had. But this is just a fun little list I did. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with this list? Do you disagree with this list? Who would you have in the Sportatorium on a CWF show in 2018 if you could pick from anybody on the indies right now that could do it? I know that the people are going to sit there and bash this list, but hey, like I said, it's mine. It's what I came up with. I threw this video together in a matter of 20 minutes. It just popped into my brain. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Leave a comment below, and more importantly, hit that subscribe button. And of course, please, please, please go ahead and become a Patreon subscriber or pledger. The link is down below in the description. $1 gets you the audio version of the official, unofficial CWF Mid-Atlantic After Show each and every week. And that's exclusive to my $1 warriors. All it takes is $1 a month to get that. $1, you're getting 4 shows. That's 25 cents a show, folks, every month. Unless there's some kind of snafu and I'm not able to do a show that week, but I haven't missed a week yet. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we will see you down the road.